Today's lesson, lesson 3.6, is on multi-step equations. Our learning goal for today is, I can practice multi-step equations. For additional information on multi-step equations, you can refer to S8 in 7th grade IXL. You can also refer to W8 in 8th grade IXL. You can also refer to 7th grade textbook, page 474 in chapter 11. Let's begin with our daily review. Write the equation, then solve. 148 is equal to k subtracted from 281. Now in this small story problem, I noticed there's some key words here. To help us solve this problem, I'm going to refer back to the Math in the Words paper we got yesterday in class. I noticed the word is. Is, according to the Math in the Words paper, means equals. So I have 148 is equal to k subtracted from 281. The next thing I notice is the word from. From is a turnaround word. And if you refer back to your Math in the Words paper, you'll notice that. So now I need to turn around the part that had the word from in it. So 148 is equal to 281 minus k. Since we have our equation, we can go ahead and solve. Feel free to pause the video if you need more time. Let's begin. I draw a line through my equal sign. Then I remember that 281 has a plus sign in front of it, so I subtract by using inverse operations. These cancel out. Next, since I subtracted by 281 on the right side, I have to do the same thing on the left side. It's important to remember that we have 148 minus 281. So on the side, we need to write 148 minus 281. Since we have a subtraction sign, we can do keep, change, change. Now, since we're plus and negative, we can go ahead and subtract because the signs are different. For more information on applying rules of subtraction of integers, you can refer back to previous lessons. 281 minus 148 is 11, that's 133. And then I remember that the bigger number is negative, so that gets the sign. Now, I'm not quite finished yet. Can you think about why? If you said it's because there's a negative in front of the k, then you are correct. Remember that between the negative and the k, there's a 1. Since we have negative 1 here, we can divide both sides by negative 1. Remember, we're multiplying here, so dividing cancels out the negative 1. These cancel out here. Now we're left with negative 133 divided by negative 1. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So our answer is 133 is equal to k. You can check your answer by plugging in 133 in for k. Once again, feel free to pause the video if you need more time to copy this down. Number 2 says, Summer has $27.56 left in her wallet. How many liters of milk can she purchase if it costs $3.52 per liter? Now, when I look at this question, I notice some key words. Can you find any keywords with this question here? If you said the word per, then you were correct. You can refer back to the Math in the Words paper that we had from our last class. Notice how it says division is per. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and divide these two numbers. 27.56 will go inside the TP. And 3.52 will go on the outside. Now notice how there's a decimal on the outside of our division here. So we have to move it over to make it a whole number. If we move over this 352 here, we also have to do the same thing on the inside. So now we're left with 352 divided by 2756. So now we begin. How many times can 352 go into 2? Well, it can't. How many times can 352 go into 27? Well, it can't. How many times can 352 go into 275? It can't. I always say, if you get stuck, you back up the truck. How many times can 352 go into 2756? Well, we'll have to use trial and error to figure that out. 352 times 8 is, let's see here, 28, so 2816. Well, that's too big, so we're going to have to try another number. 352 times 7 is 464. Okay, well, that works, and it's not bigger than 2756, but it's also not, the difference isn't going to be 352. So we're going to write the 2464 underneath. Then we subtract. 2756 minus 2464 is 292. I'm going to place the 7 over here. Now, notice we have a large remainder, so we can add a decimal here and here, as well as add a 0 here. We bring our 0 down, and now we have 2920. Next, we try to see how many times 352 can go into 2920. Notice how previously we did 352 times 8, and that gave us 2816. So let's use that same number. That's going to leave us with 104 as a remainder. Our 8 goes on top. We can still go a little further, so let's do that. I'm going to add another 0. So now we have 1040. Now we want to experiment and see how close we can get 352 to 1040. If I estimate, and I were to guess, that 400 times 2 would be 800, and that's pretty close to 1040. So I'm going to try 2 and see what I get. I get 704. So I'll write my 704 underneath this number here, and I'm left with a remainder with a remainder of 336, and then I'm going to do it one more time. The 2 goes up top here like this. I'm going to add one more 0 and bring that down. Well, I know that when I multiply 352 times 8, I get 2816. So I have to go a little bit larger. So 352 times 9 is, let's see, we'll get 3168. The 9 will go on top. I subtract 3168 from 3360. That leaves me a remainder of 192. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to round this number because we're dealing with money. And a good way to remember when you're rounding is, if you're here, you'll say 5 through 9, so you look next door, 5 through 9, take a climb. If it's 0 through 4, you stay on the floor. So then I'm going to rewrite this. If it's 5 or more, you take a climb. If it's 0 through 4, you stay on the floor. So I'm going to rewrite this then as 7.83. So then, the total amount per liter is $7.83. Once again, feel free to pause the video if you need more time to copy this down. Let's continue with our daily review. Now, I take a look here and I notice that there's no equal sign, so I'm not going to solve for any variable. And I also notice that there's more than one variable. I'm going to begin by turning in all my variables without numbers in front by putting a 1. Next, any minuses I'm going to add a plus, a negative by using keep, change, change. Keep, change, change. After that, I'm going to look for things that are alike. I have 5x plus 1x, which is equal to 6x. Next, I have plus a negative 6x. Now I notice that I have 6x plus a negative 6x. Since those are inverses of each other, I can go ahead and cancel them out. And this makes 0x. Since we don't want to spend time counting zeros, we can go ahead and just get rid of our x's. Now let's see what else we can simplify. Now I notice there's no more y's, so I'm going to rewrite the 7y down here. Next, I notice that I have one more set of like terms here, 2 plus 3, and that's 5. So my final answer is 7y plus 5. Feel free to pause the video if you need more time to write that question down. Number 4. I notice this question has an equal sign, so I'll have to solve for a variable. I draw a line through my equal sign separating the left from the right. Next, I notice I have plus a negative 10. I want to pay attention to the sign that's closest to the 10, which is a negative. So I write plus 10 underneath. I use inverse operations to cancel out the 10s. Next, I'll add 30 plus 10, which is 40. After that, I'll bring down my negative 2x. Next, I'll divide both sides by negative 2 since I'm multiplying. (40) divided by negative 2 is, well, I use the triangle here. Positive divided by a negative, that equals negative 20. Remember, you can check your answer by plugging in negative 20 in for x. Before we start our lesson, let's review our learning goal. Again, today's learning goal was I can practice multi-step equations. We're going to take what we learned in 3 previous lessons to uncover our answers to these equations today. So let's begin. We'll begin by using the distributive property. 4 times x equals 4x. Next, we'll multiply 4 times 6, and that gets you 24. After that, we'll bring down our plus 4, and we'll write this equals to 12. Okay, so now, ignoring the number on the right side, the constant, let's focus on like terms. I notice that 24 and 4 are alike, so I can add them. Now, think about what we have here. If you said we have a 2-step equation, then you're correct. Since I'm adding 28 here, I can go ahead and subtract 28 from both sides. Now we have 12 minus 28. Keep, change, change. This is going to give me negative 16. I write my negative 16 down here, and I write my 4x down here. Now we have a 1-step equation. To cancel out my 4, I divide both sides by 4. X is equal to negative 4. You'll notice that the shape of our problem really starts to begin to resemble that of a Dorito. You can check your answer by plugging in negative 4 in for x. Also remember, or notice, that all we did was add one little thing to our equation, which was an equal sign. Let's try the second one. We'll begin by using the distributive property to get 2x, and then using the distributive property to get 14. I'm going to add an x equals 20. Now I look for things that I could combine. I remember that there's a 1 in front of this x. So therefore, I can go ahead and add 2x plus 1x to get 3 x's. Next, I notice that I have a two-step equation. So, we draw a line through my equal sign, perform inverse operations, to get 3x equals 6. Next, I notice I'm multiplying, so I'll divide both sides by 3. And x is equal to 2. Let's look at number 3. Again, we'll begin by using the distributive property. I get 2x, 2 minus 1, 2 times a negative 1 is negative 2. Now we'll bring down our 3x, and we'll bring down our 3. Once again, we look for things that we can combine. 2x plus 3x, well, that's going to be 5x. I'll bring down my minus 2, and that's equal to 3. After that, I notice that I have a two-step equation. So I can go ahead and solve. The minus 2 and the 2 cancel out. I add 5 to both sides. Or add 2 to both sides. Now I have 5x is equal to 5. Next, I divide both sides by 5. And I'm left with x as 1. Of course, you can check your answer by plugging in 1 for x. Number 4. 3 parentheses m plus 1 parentheses minus 2 equals 0. Once again, I'll begin by using the distributive property. 3m plus 3 minus 2 equals 0. Next, I look for things I can combine, and to be consistent with our other problems, I'll go ahead and add a negative. So instead of writing subtraction, I'm going to add a negative. Next, I have 3 plus a negative 2, and I'm left with 1m. I'll bring down my 3. Notice it's positive because the bigger number was 3. The bigger number was 3. Now, looking at this question, I see that I have 0 on one side, and I'm left with 1m plus 3 on the left. To get m by itself, I'm going to have to subtract 3 from both sides. Now I can rewrite this as 1m is equal to 3, which is the same thing as m is equal to 3. Number 5. Z plus 4 parentheses 2z plus 3 equals 15. It's important to remember that you only multiply the number just outside of parentheses times the number on the inside. So let's begin by multiplying 4 times 2z, which is 8z, 4 times 3, which is 12. I'm going to bring down my 15. This is what I'm left with. Now I look for things I can combine. I remember that there's a 1 in front of the z here. So now I have 1z plus 8z equals 9z. And I rewrite what's left. After that, I draw a line through my equal sign. I subtract 12 from both sides. And I'm left with 9z is equal to 3. Now be careful with this one here. Divide both sides by the number next to your letter. And that's going to give you z is equal to 3 over 9 simplified is 1/3. Remember, you can check your answer by plugging in z equals 1/3 into your equation. Number 6. 9 equals negative 3, parentheses a plus 7, close parentheses, minus 2a. So once again, we'll begin by using the distributive property. Negative 3 times a is negative 3a. Next, we multiply negative 3 times 7, which is negative 21. Next, we'll write down our 2a equal to 9. After that, I'll turn all my minuses into plus and negatives. Keep, change, change, keep, change, change. After that, I'll look for things that are alike. I notice that I have negative 3a plus a negative 2a. This leaves me with negative 5a. After that, I'll move things over from one side of the equation to the other. I notice that the negative is closest to the 21, so I'll add 21. Cancel out. I'm left with 30 is equal to negative 5a. Now, since I'm out of room, I'm going to write this over here. So I have 30 is equal to negative 5a. Remember, I'm multiplying, so I can divide both sides by the number next to my letter. 30 divided by negative 5 is negative 6. So my answer then is negative 6 equals a. Once again, you can take negative 6 and plug it into your equation to check if you're correct. Today, we practiced solving multi-step equations. Thank you.